All right, folks, welcome on back here to the Diagnostic Trading Hour. My name is Daryl Martin. I'm your host right here at TFNN. Good to be back. Been out for a little holiday weekend, birthday celebration, just enjoying some time with the family. Spent a lot of time camping, going out and doing all sorts of activities, so it was great. And ready to be back for a big news week. It's coming on in. Well, let's check out where it's at right now. Market's a little slow, waiting on everything to develop. We got the S&P is up 2 points. The Russell's up 5.4. Looking on over at NASDAQ, it's up 9 right now with the Dow down 3. Copper is currently pretty flat, up about a 30%, along with gold down about 0.2%. Silver down 0.5% on the day. Natural gas up 1% on the day. Oil up 1.3, so some nice moves in oil. Corn right now down a few points. Soybeans down 4. And let's see here, trying to look at my FX. It says they're all flat, but I don't think that's the case. So I'll have to bring you an update on that again here in a little bit. And we'll pull that up and look at what's going on with the Forex data feed over there in the TOS section. But we got the dollar index is up about 0.25%, and bonds are slightly down. All right, so let's go ahead and check out what's going on, what's coming up this week. And in the meantime, what I'll do is I will restart Thinkorswim so I can give you a good lunchtime update on the Forex pairs here and get you going. Okay, so looking on over, Forex Factory or, many other sites that you can check out that have news listings. News listings by themselves aren't super helpful. But when you put, knowledge is not power, but actually having organized knowledge in a useful format with a plan of action is power. So that's a quote, obviously, from Napoleon Hill there, and a very true quote. So what do we do with all this news? How do we put it together? Well, what we do is we figure out what are the historical stats, what are the potential expectations on how the market likes to respond on that specific news event. And once we know, and got that information put together, then we are able to put together a plan of action. And how do we put that plan of action into place? We hop on over, and if it is on the right side of the page, you can click on the Nadex banner. If you click on that, it'll open on up, and we can actually open up an account at Nadex. And basically, think of it as options for day traders. And if you hop on over here and you go to news and you go to, or not news, but if you go to trading and go to demo trading account, you can open a demo trading account up. Go ahead and put in your username, your first name, last name, phone number, and email address, and click apply for demo and get that set up. In addition, you can go ahead and get your account started. So check your email, you'll get a password, you can log in, you can start learning how to use it, and to get that demo extended, click open an account for free. After you click open an account for free, it takes about 5 minutes to fill out all the steps, and then you actually could even go from open an account for free to funded. Funding is a deposit, and you can deposit as little as $100. Obviously, you're probably going to put more, but all you got to do is put $100 or more in, and to get that account activated. And if you go ahead and place a live trade, whether it be 1 or 100 or whatever it is, if you have an account funded and you place a live trade with the minimum amount or more, then you're able to get your demo extended out for 12 additional months, which is good, so you can practice all sorts of different ideas and get used to how this thing over at Nadex works. And for those of you who've been waiting on Nadex outside of the United States, I got some news for you. Looks like they are looking to expand membership, removing United States residency as a requirement to trade on the Nadex platform, and they'll be expanding out to Mexico and Canada to begin with, and other countries to be notified as they have time. I don't have any timeline on that, but right now they're going to get spanned out to Canada and Mexico. So pretty big news there. And so I know a lot of you have been waiting on that. Some of y'all are in Canada and some in Mexico there. And so now you'll be able to open an account with Nadex effective next Thursday. Okay, that's when that is supposed to start. Sometime after next Thursday is when that should go into place. And I was just looking at the filings and saw that one come across the desk, and I was like, sweet. And, well, one step in the right direction to get things going. Okay. Well, that is the big news right there, is Nadex actually expanding outside of the United States, taking its first steps to our neighbors, and hopefully much further than that soon. Okay, pardon me. Let's see where we are at on the news. We're talking about using Nadex to trade the news, and we had a little bit of news this week that we can catch up on. And so let me catch you up on the news, and let's talk about most importantly what's coming up in the next couple days. And if we have some time, we'll also go ahead and start diving into next week. Okay. Well, hopping into the news this week, it was a pretty big news week. I mean, obviously, or it's going to be a big news week before it's all said and done. But we had quite a few things that came up on the list. And let's go ahead and just start off, I guess, with Monday, and we'll catch it up to now, okay, and get you going. So on Monday, obviously we had the holiday, but then we also that night had building approvals come out, and we had some be aware events, just in case you're trading other products, just make sure you're aware of like the announcements coming out on the pound and things like that. And let's see here. Okay, so on building approvals, our plan was to hop in and do an iron condor, and we had a few different possibilities on how to put this trade together. One of them was a entry at 6 going to 11. Another was for the cash rate coming out in the following morning to enter at 11 for 7. So we actually had 2 iron condors back to back whenever we were trading this specific news event, and we were looking to bring in a profit potential of $25 or more on the trade, okay, as a minimum profit on an iron condor. What's an iron condor? Again, just in case you're not sure, you don't know, an iron condor is where you're trying to buy the lower spread and sell the upper spread. And you're doing that because there's premium built in. Usually you're the premium payer, but this time you're trying to be the premium collector and bring some of that premium, put it in your pocket instead of paying it into somebody else's. It's amazing. So many times people will complain about, oh man, there's all this premium and this and that and everything else. And I'm like, you don't have to pay it. You can collect it. And many option traders are premium collectors. So many profitable option traders are premium collectors. So it takes a lot more skill to make money on premium payment type option strategies. So just because you have to be right about distance by a certain amount of time, versus you could be wrong about distance by a certain amount of time. It could go the opposite direction. It can go in your direction. It can stay flat, and you can still be profitable if you're doing the premium collection strategies. And so, anyways, like I said, we were starting off with the Aussie, and that's using the Nadex spreads. And of course, the scanner can help you make this a lot easier as you're trying to learn how to do all this. So let's go ahead and bring up a Aussie dollar chart and walk through it and put the pieces together. Okay, so right over here we'll open up the Aussie. Okay, and then we'll put it on simple 5-minute chart, and we'll just open up the spikes tracker and make it a simple template. All right. And so what we want to do is we want to see what was the movement between our entry and our expiration. Did it fall within our guidelines earlier this week? And these expected movements are insanely accurate. And if you haven't tried them out, definitely want to. But let's go back and let's shrink this a little bit, make it a little faster to move on back. There we go, back to the first. Drag this on back out so we can zoom in on the evening. There we go. Okay, and so for that evening, we're looking at hopping in. We got a little bit of movement there. We actually got more than normal. Let's go ahead and look at it and see where it was. We had a 6 o'clock over here, and if we take that all the way to our 11 o'clock expiration, like I said, it's a little bit more than normal. got 28 pips, give or take. So right there, about at the expected move. 25 pips was the expectation. So you're looking at, made a couple bucks, lost a couple bucks, broke even, just depending upon your exact fill price, unless you got a lot more than $25. But so not too bad, but pretty much right on what we expected to happen. Ideally we hope less than that happens, but it wasn't a horrible thing, but a nice. Even within the expected movements of a couple ticks right there on the Aussie. Okay. Looking on over at the Aussie cash rate, and that was an 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So let's back out. Let's check that one up. And here we go. Let's see what happened. We were looking for about 40 bucks, actually, 40 pips of movement on this one. And we'll grab that over, run on over to 7 a.m. And yeah, 14, which is good. We want less, okay? So we basically don't expect it to be more than 40. We only had 19, so it's a really low movement. And some of those, that's one of those that can be harder to get the fill on, but usually the premium is a bit inflated because it is an interest rate announcement, and that helps us out on that one. Let's see here. And what else we got? Put some pieces on, and I'll pull up a couple more trades. That'll catch us up for the week when all done. And there we go. All right. So that is Aussie dollar. If we go on over to the following one, which is the pound PMI, and right down here, the pound dollar. Looking to trade that. We're looking for about 20 pips of movement for 11 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and no later than 12 a.m. as the entry. And that was entering on the 1st. So we'll cover that when we get back. We'll be on 9-2 and catch up, and then we'll, like I said, dive in to NFP and the ECB interest rates and stuff that are coming out tomorrow morning. Stay right there. We'll be right back. Alrighty, folks, we're going back here to the Diagnostic Trading Hour. And so going through and just, again, looking at all these, putting all the pieces together. And checking out, we're going to go back to, I went forward a little bit too far. Hop on over here. There we go. A little odd chart anomaly going on. But we got past that. And now we can go over on the 3rd, which is when the releases actually come down on pound retail sales. And right over here, actually a little bit early on that one. Hold on. Okay. Was on the Canada one. All right, so on the pound, that was on 9-1. I was like, I thought we were on 9-1. There we go. Looking at a release of, being no later than 12 for 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And right there we go. Let's go ahead and now calculate out how far did it move. Did it stay within range? Did it move way outside of the expectations? Did it do what we expected on down the list? Looks like we got a pretty decent move on it. And a little more than normal, but we'll see. If we're going over here, released out on the pound, and got to move it to 7 a.m. Pulled on back at 40 pips. So literally, we were going for 40, we got 40. So a lot of news happening right at expectations. 20 to 40 pips on there was the movement expectation. So if you got 20 only, then of course it was a losing trade. If you got 40, which would be the high end, and it was a 1-to-1 trade. Then we roll on in. Let's see what other pound ones do we maybe have. Okay, that's our major pound ones for the week. Let's go ahead. Oh, we got PMI also. So we'll go ahead and do PMI while we're on the pound dollar. And look at the one that came out the following evening. And that volatility is a good thing. We want to see that volatility on the news. That means that implied volatility will start picking up, and we can get some nice trades going. And on our other strategies where we like collecting premium and things like that, because premium will get higher as the market starts moving on the news events. It's a good sort of leading indicator to increased volatility in the market. And hopping on over here to 7 o'clock. We got 11 pips on that, looking for 30 or less in movement. And we got less, so we got basically we're looking at about a 19 pip profit on the trade, so not too shabby. And that was on the Pound Services PMI on September 2nd. So sort of helped cover up if you only got 20 on the earlier one. On the construction PMI, then that sort of basically canceled that one out for you. Hopping on over to the US ISM Manufacturing Index, that was over on the euro. And so let's see how that one played out. On September 2nd from 9 to 11 a.m. really was the main play. And looking for probably around 20 pips of movement or so on this trade. So let's back on up. Look at the second. And one more day back, and we'll be caught up. Okay, and let me make these bars a little thicker, make it a little easier to read for you. Okay, so we're looking at an entry of 9 o'clock for the 11 a.m. expiration. That was on the US ISM Manufacturing. And if you got in right there at 9 o'clock and you held it all the way to 11 o'clock, then it moved a whole pip. So basically looking at pretty much max profit on the trade, 19 pips profit on that one. And 19 pips, well, how much is that worth? Well, it can be $19, it can be $190, it can be $1,900. It depends upon the size that you do when you place the trades. And since we hold these usually till expiration, then it's pretty easy to put on some size. Let's see. We also had Euro retail sales happening that evening, so let's move that on down here. So right here, looking at 11. Right here, 11 o'clock to 7 a.m. Got some little volatility going on right there. Popped way out, came on back on the release. But then dragging all the way to 7. We're moving about 15 pips net. We were looking for 15. So you're literally talking exact expectations, break-even trade. So we were hoping for a little less. But you know what? I'll take break-even any day of the week. And, okay, so that knocks out the Euro retail sales. And then let's see the following. Let's see, we had the ECB press conference and the interest rate announcement. And let's see here. Put that in. Let's see, so we had an interest rate announcement and we had press conference after that, so we'll get those two when we get back from this break. All right, folks, going back here to the Diagnostic Trading Hour. Okay, so we're going through, we're knocking out each one of these trades, and now we're going to go in and look at this morning's news that came on out with the ECB press conference, ECB interest rate. And so just getting the euro caught up for the week here. And let's bring it on over. You can sort of see where there might have been a little news announcement there that is visible for you. And okay, so looking at this, we got 7 a.m. and so we're actually looking at getting in at 6 and going to 8 a.m. Okay, so right here, and pretty massive move. What happened? Let's look at it. Let's check it out. So you can analyze that. And that was one of those really big moves we don't normally expect to happen. So let's go ahead, let's check it out. We had the minimum bid rate come out, and the ECB changed their minimum bid rate from 0.15 to 0.05. So basically instead of 1.5, they've changed it down to 0.5%. So it was a massive drop. And really decreasing the value of the euro dramatically, getting a full 3 deviation move, and that obviously being pretty intense. So that one obviously got nailed just because of that, and it dropped it down that full 2 deviations. From there, that was just a rough trade. It doesn't happen that often, but man, when it happens, it just moves, and we expect it to happen usually about once a year. Okay. Hopping on over to the press conference, we got in at 8 o'clock for a 3 o'clock expiration on the trade was the goal, and give it as much time as possible to be able to play out. And so far, looking at that trade, as long as you got into it for less than 45, we've been down another 130 pips on top of that. You more than took your profit of $45 in the trade. That helped cover some of the loss from earlier this morning. Usually it's not a big mover, but so if you went and you took, say, a 70 pip loss on that one, you got 45 pips back. then you're down to about 35 pips on that one trade right there, net. You may have even stayed in longer. If you wrote it out, then you actually could be easily net profitable on the trade. So depending upon if you just went for the 1-to-1 and took it off, or if you left it on. But I mean, it was. I mean, that's a perfect little trend line. So this was about the time here in the last hour before the show started. Here was about the time to take it off as it started going flat, and actually just broke the trend line from that it's been doing pretty much all morning. Right here, let's go ahead. Let's draw that on out, and you can see. I mean, just connect the dots, and we finally broke it like right there at 1 o'clock. It actually just started breaking on back up. And so anyways, not too bad. Now what do we got going on tomorrow? We'll list those off. And because this includes euro dollar, so I'm just trying to stay with the same instruments. Oh, and then we also had another one today. Let's see here. What do we have on this? We had 932.11. And let's see here. What do we get on that? With that kind of interest rate news, you probably would want to bail on this trade. But let's see. How far did it move? Yeah, I got 47 pips. So, yeah, if you did that iron condor, you know, you still had your straddle on, which would have covered it at the same time if you left the straddle on the entire time there. But that would have been pretty rough. But, yeah, you see the interest rate drop when they change that, because they don't change it often. So when they do change it, you probably want to stay out of the way of the neutral trades for a little while. But some massive, massive volatility there in the FX market. And speaking of which, let's go back and let's pull up sort of what's going on in the Forex pairs real quick, because we didn't do that wrap yet. Looking at the pound dollar, we got 106 pips. We got the euro dollar down 199. Euro pound's currently down right now, about 1% on the day, so some nice moves. Looking on over at the dollar franc, it is up 1.5%. We got the dollar yen up 0.4%, so U.S. franc getting up 136 pips. U.S. yen right now up 43. Euro yen down $1.41, down over 1%. The Aussie yen up 0.5%. Dollar index now up 1% on the day. I got a little update there. And we got the treasuries down 0.5%. So some big, big moves. And all stemming around that euro-dollar interest rate. So just one thing, you know, just if you're new to trading, if you haven't traded for, you know, probably I'd say over 2 years, because you need to see some of these things play out. Whenever you see an interest rate announcement pop out like that, okay, it is going to rock the FX markets. So that basically means all the FX markets. Usually you'd see a big move as well in some of the metals, but mainly your interest rates, obviously your dollar index futures, your Forex futures, everything with a dollar in it, because it's you know, euro dollar. So that's going to be the most heavily traded pair. It's going to go through and it's going to ripple across. Because if you got euro dollar and euro yen and dollar yen, well, euro dollar is going to affect the euro dollar, which is going to affect the dollar itself, which is going to affect the dollar yen, which is going to affect the euro yen. Okay? And then if the dollar yen's affected, well, that's going to affect the pound yen and the pound dollar, because the U.S. yen's now affected. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going. So it's a big triangle web, and one FX pair will affect pretty much almost all the other FX pairs, and to different varying degrees. But you know, when you get a 200 pip move, that's going to impact the entire FX market. So usually a day to look for some trending moves, and that'll wrap up that one for you. But big moves right there. Going in and looking at tomorrow, we got the U.S. unemployment and NFP report. Okay, usually range-bound trades. What kind of movements do we expect? We expect about you know, around 100 pips of movement. So we want at least, or you know, now that means expanding out, coming back. We want about 60 pips of minimum profit. Pound dollar, expect about 100. We want 70 pips of minimum profit on the trade. Dollar CAD, we expect about 75. We want 60 on this one. It's the way it works. Dollar franc, about 92 pips of movement. We want 60 pips of minimum profit. And then we go at the dollar yen, but that's about 80 pips. We want about 60 pips of minimum profit. Now you can also check out straddles. So you could look at, you know, I gave you the expected moves there. You could go in and look at those expected moves from what I just listed off to you. That's for the specific announcement of the NFP. This is not the ADP NFP, but the actual NFP report. And look at how you can potentially profit off of that trade. Okay? And maybe the premium will be there, especially after today's move of the euro dollar. If it is, awesome. If not, then back up and look at potentially doing a straddle on the trade. But with the premium, it ought to be pretty inflated after today's just stellar move. And it didn't just drop. I mean, it just continued to trend down even more than it moved off that interest rate surprise announcement for everybody. And that's one of the beautiful things about Nadex. At least your risk is always, always, always capped. And, that's, like I said, that's a huge, huge move. We go over here from 6 down to here to 8. Or 7 to 9. If we move it over even further, then you would have had a capped risk on the trade. And that's what you want. You want to make sure you have that capped risk. That's the beautiful thing about trading Nadex. So when there are surprises, now it could help you, or it could, it'd help you because it caps your risk. So whenever there's, big movements like that, look at dollar cat, how it just took off as well. So, always be aware of, even if you don't trade that interest rate, if you're not trading, like, say, the euro, if the euro is releasing their interest rate, you better be aware of it. I don't care what FX pair you're trading. If you're trading treasuries, or if you're trading, dollar index futures, or, whatever, you want to be aware of those interest rate announcements. That's why I give them to you. So be aware of the news. Even if you're not trading that news, be aware of it, because otherwise you can get hit like, what the analogies I give is, if you go into the doctor, you get a perfectly clean bill of health, your chart tells you everything's perfect. Then you don't look both ways for the cross the street, you don't check the news of what's coming up, and you don't know the bus schedule there, and boom, you get hit. And you're still going to die no matter how good your health checkup was. So same thing with news. Make sure you know when the news is coming up. Okay, so Bank of Canada rate statement. It came out at 10 a.m. on the 3rd there. So let's back on up. We got a nice move, by the way, out of CAD as well today, but backing on up to yesterday. And that release is for a 7 to 3. And let's see, how low did we go? If I bring this thing on back to 7 o'clock, so we've got to move down about 36 pips. Pretty big non-event. So, one of those things where be trailing that thing down, and we didn't really get a whole lot going on the trade. It just started trickling on back up. If you held it, if you got out, you would have got out at around break even on the trade. If you held it, then you would have lost about 20 pips on the trade. So really just not a big move. Now what about that was one trade. The other trade was saying, hey, this is probably going to be potentially a flat trade. So how can I take advantage of that? And so I told you this week, I'm like, this is the interest rate week. So 8 to 10 leading up into it. Going to move a 6 pips on an expected move of 20. So that was basically getting the iron condor right before the news announcement, or now 2 hours before the news announcement, expiring right before the news came out. And that stayed right within expectations and pulled in a nice profit, and basically neutralizing out that trade. So pretty tough week to trade news, but not a bad week if you're putting the entire news plan together. Okay. And but again, volatility coming back, and that's what I talked about. I was glad, saying, hey, Labor Day's coming up, and when things get going after that, then we usually get some nice movements. And if we keep getting those, then that'll really, like I said, wake everything up. Premium comes in, and it gets a lot more fun to trade. We also had another one for $40 right around the interest rate statement, and that one was for entering at 9 for an 11 a.m. expiration. Looking for about 40 pips on that, and it moved to 18, so that one would have been a net profitable. So that would have actually pulled all the dollar cat trades combined into profitable territory. And what else do we have we can check out? Well, we got Aussie retail sales that came out last evening, so we can pull that one up, see how that plan came out. These are all trades I called out to you last week. If you didn't check it, I go through, and I'll be doing this a lot tomorrow, where I go through and I laid out the news plan for this entire week for you, and told you what to expect on every announcement, how far to expect all of them to move, and every major news announcement we get stats on, and put that entire plan together. And so backing on up to last night on the Aussie retail sales, we're looking at a 6 to 11 iron condor, getting buying the lower spread, selling the upper spread, taking that on over here. Look at all those spike triggers. And 2 pip net move. We were looking for minimum profit of 30 pips, so looking at a profit of 28 pips on the trade. Not a bad trade at all. Did have a little volatility, but settled out flat and did great for us there. Okay, so that gets us caught up on the Aussie dollar retail sales. We got euro, we got pound. We had Aussie GDP that also came out. Let's see, that was on the 2nd, so let's back up one more night and see how that news plan did. I was trying to review it with you. We got so much to do. Been out for a couple days, so I was trying to get you all caught up. And let's see, how did it do? We got a 6 o'clock to 11, and oh man, look at that, 2 pips. So we for 40 on that, so nice big profitable trade. You may have had to leg into that one, and you could have lagged into it definitely with that pop that happened. But overall, trade worked out well, and but definitely gave you the correct expectations there. All right, so that gives us Canada check, euro knocked out. We got a Euro press conference. We got NFP. We went over that for you tomorrow. We got the pound services PMI, Aussie GDP, US ISM, euro retail sales, pound PMI, Aussie cash rate, Aussie building approvals. So across the board, everything worked out pretty well. So I mean, a little bit of net profit, but not massive, not a massively profitable week on news, but definitely a beneficial week to be aware of that news. So you had proper expectations, and if you traded through it, you know, it's just like any system you trade. You can't stop after a loss. You trade the other trades, then that's what keeps you know, your stats rolling and working in your favor. And that was the same this week. Okay, so hopping on over to natural gas. We had natural gas and we had oil inventory this week. A little bit different than normal. And looking mainly for spike strikers on it. And as you can see right there from this morning, we had a 5, 10, and a 15-minute spike striker. And all 3 working out well. Let's zoom on in on them. So you have 5 minutes, and let's see, 3809, 3808, 3811. Okay, so 5-minute did not trigger, and 10-minute did trigger and was profitable. 15-minute did trigger and was profitable, going right into the end of the hour. Okay, so that's our natural gas. Would have been a little bit difficult to get in, and some of that depends on exactly what strikes you could get a hold of. But it was moving on up, did well. So, and it moved right to the expectations. So if you did iron condors on the expected moves, or if you did straddles on the expected moves, both of them got out when it hit it, were perfect. I mean, you looked at like pretty much to the tick. We got the expectation of movement, like right there. I mean, that was, you can't ask for a better expected movement. Last we got oil, a little bit different this week. Being released on a Thursday. We'll come on back to that right after this. All right, folks, we'll come back here to the Diagnostic Trading Hour. So now we're checking out oil inventory report. And like I said, they changed things up with the holiday weekend, as you can see over here. And we had our natural gas storage and our crude oil coming out at 11 o'clock, a little bit different time. And I said, hey, be aware, this one's a little bit off, just due to normal, you know, how it normally is released and works. And so this one, let's see, we got 5, 10 popped up, pulled on down on this one. So, you know, odd release time, and so that sort of messed with that trade a little bit on us. And I wasn't too shocked on that. And you know, we make sure we have the notes on there, but just go in and, you know, just make sure you're always noting those little things that I talk about. And let's see here. And such as odd release date and time with the holiday. So, you know, that way you're like, you know, use caution type thing whenever it's, you know, weird because of that. And so, but that one did not, it stayed within the expected range. So if you did a straddle in the expected range, it actually was sort of like news didn't even happen because it pretty much stayed right within the expected range. And it released at 11. You can see like right there, I mean, it had a little pop and then dropped down a little bit. And the inventories came in, pretty much on par with expectations on the basic inventory. If you go and look at the actual release report, we can go down. We can see decreased by 0.9 million from the previous week. That's expected. Let's see, upper half of the average range for this time of year, which means even though it was the expected decrease in inventory, it's still, you know, basically more than what usually happens. It's above average this time of year, therefore dropping the price of oil. So that's on the oil inventory release report itself, third paragraph there. And second sentence, first and second sentence there is what you're usually paying the most attention to. Okay? And that catches us up for oil inventory reports. Make sure that you got IVPMI on your list. Just be aware of it, but really NFP is going to take over on that for you tomorrow. And just to do a recap for you on the NFP, iron condors, let's see, we got Aussie dollar, 60 pip average move, 50 pip profit. Euro dollar, 100 pip average move, 60 pip minimum profit. That's what we're going for in iron condors. Pound dollar, 100 pip average move, 70 pip minimum profit. Dollar CAD, 75 pip average move, 60 pip minimum profit. Dollar franc, 92 pip average move, 60 pip minimum profit. And dollar yen, 80 pip average move, 60 pip minimum profit, meaning I expect it to move big and pull on back. And you can be looking at, 7 to 3 is the ideal range. Give it plenty of room and maximize that premium. Also, feel free to, have fun with it. Check it out. See what you can do on different expirations. You might be able to go in, pull off, a nice straddle trade for an earlier expiration. Okay? You can use 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock expirations. Usually, 90% of the time, the biggest move happens in the first 15 minutes after the release. So, when does that come out? You can always check out Forex Factory, see any kind of news releases, times, dates, stats, whatever. And what you're going to notice real quick on this is going over and looking at it. We're going to have our NFP. Also, you have the dollar CAD. Don't forget about that one. But coming out at 8:30 in the morning. And that gets you caught up for the week. Tomorrow, we're going to get ready for next week. And I hope you all had a good week trading. And I will see you tomorrow right here on the Diagnostic Trading Hour. Stay tuned for another great show coming up right after this.